Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. We're going to do something a little bit different actually for the channel. I haven't really done a video like this before. We're going to cover some news, so not just in the realms of polling or actually elections or by-election results and things like that, just actually looking at some political news. And it's not really coverage I've done, to be fair. I think, I've said before, the reason I did this channel is that the things I've been doing, I don't think you can get anywhere else. And I think you can get political news elsewhere on YouTube, and there's probably other places that will do it a lot better than I'm going to. So this isn't going to be the main focus of the channel, but I thought we'll give it a go. And if you enjoy the video, please do put a like on it and get in the comments and let me know if you want to see more coverage of news stories and things like that on the channel, and I'll do my best to cover them for you. So the big story today is that Danny Krueger, Member of Parliament for East Wiltshire, has left the Conservative Party and joined the Reform Party. Now, that's big news for two reasons, really. Firstly, it's the first Conservative to defect or change allegiance from Conservatives to Reform who is actually sitting in the House of Commons. All of the ones who have done it up to this point have been former members of Parliament who either lost their seats last year or who didn't stand last year, and so are not in the House of Commons now. But Danny Krueger very much is in the House of Commons now, and he's the first sitting Member of Parliament to join Reform, so that's quite a big thing. And secondly, he may not be a household name, but he is a very well regarded name and figure on the right of British politics. He's been sort of involved with various administrations over the last 14 years, with the Conservative Party, of course. And like I say, he's well regarded as a genuinely conservative thinking, right wing thinking man. And so it's a big loss for Kemi Badenoch and the Conservative Party. And let's have a look now at what Danny Krueger had to say about his former party.
I hoped after our defeat last year that the Conservative Party would learn the obvious lesson, that the old ways don't work, that centrism is not enough, that real change is needed. But no, we've had a year of stasis and drift and the sham unity that comes from not doing anything bold or difficult or controversial. And the result is in the polls. And those lost voters aren't coming back. And every day more and more people are joining them in deserting the party that has failed. And so this is my tragic conclusion. The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left.
So some pretty strong words there, and condemning words really for his former party. And if you've been watching this channel for any period of time, not new words. These are things that I've been saying for a good 6 months now, if not longer. The way I say it is that I think the Conservative Party is finished. He says the Conservative Party is over, which is essentially the same thing. And look, it is. And just look at this map that's on your screen now. This is the now cast map, courtesy of Election Maps UK. If a general election were to be held today, the model that goes into feeding this map suggests this is how the constituencies would all fall. And you can see it's dominated by the Reform, colour of Reform. And the Conservative Party are near enough wiped out. They're reduced here to around about 30 seats. Now, I think they'll go lower than that. I don't think they'll be wiped out entirely. I think they'll maintain some sort of presence in British politics, but not any sort of relevant presence in British politics. And so I think they will go lower than this. And it may well be that with a guy like Danny Krueger leaving the party and saying those very, very condemning words, it may be the sort of floodgates opening, potentially. It may be the dominoes start to fall. Now, in terms of high-profile people moving across to the Reform Party, I think Reform have to be very careful with that. They don't want to become too, or don't want to take on too many former Tories that have been around during the 2010 to 2024 era when it all went very, very wrong for the Conservatives, and people who now don't vote for the Conservatives don't vote for them precisely because they blame the Conservatives for where we now are. Now, they may be unhappy at the Labour government for making things worse, but they hold the Tories accountable for getting us here in the first place. And so it's important for Reform not to take on too many of those people. But the leadership have mentioned this, they're aware of that. So I'd be surprised to see a whole host of former Conservative ministers and secretaries of state and whatever coming across, but who knows. But I do think there are some good Conservative MPs that are actually quite well thought of, even amongst people who don't vote for the Conservatives these days. And one of those, I would say, is Katie Lamb. Now, Katie Lamb, I can't remember exactly what her brief is. She's in Kemi Badenoch's, shadow cabinet. But she's made a couple of speeches in the House of Commons that have sort of gone viral or been seen online, and people like her. They like the way she speaks. They like what she believes in. Now, the benefit of Katie Lamb from a Reform perspective, and I'm not saying I have no information whatsoever here, I'm just throwing out a theory, so there's nothing to this, but the benefit of Katie Lamb, if she were to decide to throw in her lot with Reform, is that she is entirely untarnished by the Conservative government period of 2010 to 2024. She was only elected for the first time last year, so like I say, she's entirely untarnished by that. And like I say, I think she is quite well regarded, mostly by right Conservative thinking people. So she may well be one to go across and follow Danny Krueger potentially. Like I say, I don't know if that will happen. I don't know how die-in-the-wool Tory she is, whether she would consider going across to Reform. But another thing to consider is that she's, like I say, just been elected last year for the first time, quite young, at the beginning of her political career. Is she going to look at it and see the writings on the wall? If she wants to continue as a politician, she's going to have to throw in her lot with Reform to stay in the House of Commons. Potentially, look, she's currently 8.5 points behind in her own constituency to Reform, so maybe that factors into the thinking as well. So that's just something to consider. Let's now have a quick listen even to what Danny Krueger had to say about his new party and the direction that he hopes that goes in.
But here's an important thing. Reform UK is a radical force, but not a revolutionary one. Our mission is not just to overthrow the current system. It is to restore the system that we need: limited government, accountable power, a strong society, a state that works in the interests of the people. Radical restoration. That is the reform the country needs.
So there you have it, really. I mean, as I say, he's a well-regarded Conservative thinker. You heard there from the list of things that he mentioned of what Reform needs to try and bring back into British politics is all very much the tick box of right-wing thinking, in terms of small government, accountable power, all that sort of stuff. So this is what I mean. It is genuinely a loss to Kemi Badenoch and the Conservative Party, this one. And I think it may well be the death knell. Not to say that he's, that important individually, but I think it just the symbolism of somebody who is as serious, frankly, as him, and, like I say, well regarded, deciding that the Conservative Party, and indeed explicitly stating that the Conservative Party is over and that he has to join another party because and he's mentioned elsewhere in his speech that Reform and Nigel Farage are now the bearers of the Conservative flame in Britain, and the Conservatives have passed that on. So, look, damaging words, I think, really, for the Conservative Party. And Nigel Farage mentioned later on in the Q&A that they had together that if things go the way the polls suggest they're going to go after next May, the Conservative Party will not be a national party. They will not exist in Scotland, and they will exist in a very, very small way in Wales after the, of course, local elections next May. They're going across England, but Wales and Scotland for their national assemblies as well. It's beginning to look very, very existential for the Conservative Party now, and obviously I don't see any way back. I've mentioned that, and clearly Conservatives, serious Conservatives, are starting to think the same thing. So that's the news for today. Thank you for watching. Like I said, if you enjoyed the video, please do leave a like and comment if you want to see more like this. Give me advice and tips on how it can be better or more interesting as well. More than happy to get your advice. And let me know if you don't want to see anything like this. If you don't want me to just stick to what we're doing with the elections and the polling and stuff, that's fine as well. I just thought, why not give something else a go? So that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.